The maximum-awaited horse changed into Star, which charged into the area with a power that left the crowd breathless. For a second, it seemed the champion may triumph yet again. But destiny had other plans. The landing became anything however smooth. Star's legs gave manner, his frame tumbling in a violent, uncontrolled somersault. The once proud stallion now lay in the dirt, trembling, his breath shallow and worked. Marcus Steele stood through, palms folded, his face as tough and unyielding as the rain. His three-piece match failed to display one speck of disarray as he watched it all show up around him. He did not even go to Star's facet to try to raise him up or to see what become incorrect, like some different man would possibly. To Marcus Steele, Star changed into nothing however a wager, an investment. The stallion now lay broken at his feet. The crowd's cries for help grew louder, however Marcus failed to cringe. He grew to become away, pulling out his smartphone. "Get the truck," he barked into the receiver. It became quick and sharp final. The person on the alternative quit knew precisely what to do, as if this were a recurring that they had rehearsed generally earlier than. Marcus didn't look lower back as he walked away, his bright shoes clicking in opposition to the moist pavement. "It's vain," he muttered to himself, voiceless. Star became loaded right into a transport truck as the rain intensified. Handlers worked in silence, their moves mechanical, displaying no compassion for the animal they were managing. Star watched them, eyes huge and perplexed, however did no longer battle. His strength had left him. His spirit had been damaged. The typhoon intensified because the truck moved off into the darkness, and hours dragged on as the automobile made its winding way down abandoned roads, the rain driving into it. The hired hands did not say a phrase, their faces were expressionless. They stopped at remaining inside the center of nowhere, a bare discipline on the very edge of the nation-state. The men opened the gates of the truck, dragged out the harmed stallion and left him there. One appeared returned at the broken creature on the moist, cold mud with a moment's hesitation. "Poor aspect," he muttered in his low murmur. His mate jeered. "Not our concern." They deserted Star inside the rain-soaked deserted area, drenching without pity. There, on his as soon as robust form, he shook with the convulsive pain of his ache, bloodless seeped through the chill of rain. His brilliant eyes now appeared heavy with a query unasked. Why had he been left? The hurricane had moved on, however the air remained heavy with the smell of wet earth and snapped branches. Sam walked through his waterlogged fields, his boots sinking into the mud with each step. Dawn painted the sky in muted oranges and grays, casting lengthy shadows over the sodden panorama. He turned out to survey the damage after a night of terrible weather. As his eyes swept the horizon, something stuck his attention close to the tree line. A darkish form sprawled at the ground. At first he thought it become handiest a fallen department. But drawing nearer, he got here to recognize that what he changed into a horse, a massive one, sprawled immobile in the mud. Its breath shallow and ragged, stirring faint puffs of mist in the cold morning air. Sam's heart pounded tough, sufficient to wake him up all another time. He hadn't been this near a horse in over 10 years, no longer for the reason that Grace. He swallowed hard, his chest tightening on the reminiscence. Grace had cherished horses, lived for them. Losing her had turned the barn into a mausoleum, an area he hadn't entered in view that her coincidence. But something about the way this horse lay there, damaged but now not defeated, tugged at him. Its dark eyes opened in short, meeting his with a glance that turned into both haunting and defiant. "You're no longer going to make it out right here, are you?" Sam muttered, nearly to himself. The horse blinked slowly as though in agreement, and Sam felt something inside him shift. He heaved a sigh, going for walks his give up what changed into now gray hair, then bent down. "All right, big guy, let's have a look at if we will get you out of this mess." Getting the horse lower back to the barn changed into no smooth mission. Sam wasn't as sturdy as he was once, and Star should hardly ever raise his head, a lot much less stand. It took every ounce of effort and quite a few coaxing, however finally, with the help of his neighbor Tom, they controlled to load the injured animal onto an antique flatbed trailer. Tom, continually the talkative one, gave Sam a sideways look as they labored. "Haven't visible you mess with horses given that?" He allowed the sentence cling, scratching the back of his neck. Sam gave him a look that stayed his phrases, then reached out and patted Star gently. "Just doing what desires to be carried out." The barn reeked of dirt and mildew when they got inside. It became simply precisely the manner he had left it. Tools strewn about, cobwebs dangling thick within the corners, a layer of dust overlaying the whole thing. It became as if stepping into a time pill, again to the days while Grace could hum whilst brushing her gelding, her laughter filling the gap like sunlight. With Star now in her, Sam labored methodically. He wiped clean out a stall, laid down fresh hay, and wrapped the pony's injured leg with an antique blanket until he could get expert help. Memories he tried to bury saved creeping in, Grace's voice, her mild hands, her delight when her horse took its first steps after a terrible fall. The idea made his throat tighten, but he pushed it apart. Star wanted him now. By mid-morning, Sarah pulled into the driveway in her battered pickup truck, her vet bag slung over her shoulder. She turned into a woman who were given instantly to the factor, now not one for frills or wasted time. As she approached, her sharp eyes right away assessed Star's circumstance. "Where'd you locate him?" she asked, strolling her arms alongside Star's leg with practiced ease. "Out within the east subject," Sam spoke back, leaning against the stall door as he watched her work. Sarah glanced up, her brow furrowed. "He's lucky you located him. This leg is a mess. Infection's an actual opportunity." Sam nodded, however said little. He wasn't one for small communicate, and Sarah regarded to admire that. She labored in silence, cleansing the wound and applying a proper bandage. After some time she sat again on her heels and checked out him. "It's not going to be clean, you recognize. A horse like this, with an harm like that." She allowed the unspoken phrases grasp inside the air. "He's were given a chance even though?" Sam asked quietly, his eyes by no means leaving Star. Sarah hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, in case you're inclined to put within the paintings." "I'll do it," Sam said, his voice constant. Something softened in Sarah's expression. "All proper then. Let's get to it." Sam spent the rest of the day with the aid of Star's head, doing as much as he could below Sarah's guidance. Was the pony or himself who wished saving, he could not say, but he knew one element: neither needed to lose. As the sun dips under the horizon, it pours warm golden mild into the barn. Star shifts a little inside the stall and sighs softly. Sam leans against the door, nearly on the stop of his tether. But for the primary time in a long time he feels there's a few spark of something nearly dwelling. Maybe it turned into hope, perhaps it became motive, or perhaps it was simply the simple fact that, for the primary time considering the fact that Grace, the barn didn't sense so empty. The barn turned into quiet, store for the faint rustle of hay and Star's labored respiration. Sam sat on a stool close to the stall, his tough hands adjusting the wrappings on Star's injured leg. Outside, the solar was already lower, stretching long shadows on the dusty timber beams. A trace of liniment, hay, and antique memories stuffed the air. "You understand, my Grace saved this location simply as easy as her personal living room," Sam stated, shattering the stillness. His voice became nearly low, so that he regarded to be pronouncing extra to himself than to the pony. "She'd be out here all day, brushing her gelding, humming something music she just heard at the radio." He paused, tying off the bandage. "It's been years considering the fact that I could even set foot in this barn, not to mention do something like this." Star, still and watchful, flicked an ear closer to him as if listening. The gesture brought a faint smile to Sam's face, though it quickly faded. "She cherished these animals," he went on. "Especially those human beings said had been too damaged to bother with. Said they simply wished a person to trust in them. Guess I did not recognize that till now." Later that afternoon, Sarah came on foot into the backyard, her vet bag slung over one shoulder. She moved with a brisk, no-nonsense air that usually appeared to melt round Sam and Star. "How's our patient today?" she requested, kneeling with the aid of the stall to check out the bandage. "Getting there," Sam replied. "Slowly, but he's trying. And it is something." He leaned, returned, his hands resting on his knees. Grace could have cherished him. Would have visible the combat in him right away. Sarah seemed up at him, her expression curious. "You don't talk approximately her a lot." Sam hesitated, then shrugged. "Not easy to. Most days she was the whole lot exact about this location. Losing her took the mild out of it. Out of me, I wager." The weight of his words hung within the air, but Sarah didn't press him. She grew to become returned to Star, her palms moving with practiced care as she checked the pony's leg. "You're doing accurate paintings here, Sam," she said quietly. "You're giving him a risk." Over the following week, Star started out to expose symptoms of improvement. The once crippled horse, who had lain motionless inside the dust while Sam first observed him, became now trying to stand on his injured leg. Each shaky step added a flicker of hope to Sam's chest, although he saved his exhilaration tempered. "One step at a time," he mumbled to himself as he watched Star lurch, then constant. And there had been flashes of mischief. One morning Sam left a bucket of oats just a little too close to the stall, to return again to find Star nuzzling it over, spreading the contents out at the barn ground. "Oh, so that's how it'll be, huh?" Sam stated, shaking his head however not able to cover his grin. "You were given some fight in you in spite of everything?" Sarah, stopping with the Ada for her standard check-in, laughed whilst she noticed the mess. "Looks like a person's feeling better." As the times went on, Sarah commenced to observe something atypical about Star. It wasn't so much a rely of his bodily healing or the rising power coursing via his veins. It had to do with how he carried himself, a quiet type of dignity that regarded absolutely at odds with an deserted horse. There turned into a sharpness in his moves, even at his weakest, and in the intelligence in his eyes that she couldn't help but preserve onto. "You realize," she said one afternoon looking Star from the paddock fence, "there's something about him. He's different. Special?" Sam gave her a sidelong glance. "Special how?" "I don't recognize but," she admitted, frowning slightly. "It's the manner he moves even injured. The manner he seems at humans. It strikes a chord in my memory of a number of the champion horses I've worked with before." Sam chuckled dryly. "Champion? This man? He changed into left to die in a field?" "Maybe," Sarah said thoughtfully. "But it would not upload up. I mean, look at him. His construct, his temperament. I don't assume he is just any horse." That nighttime, interest gnawed at Sarah sufficient to spark off her to dig deeper. With Sam's permission, she took a series of photographs of Star, focusing on the information she'd observed, his specific markings, the effective lines of his body, and commenced searching online for any suits. When she returned the following day, there has been an urgency in her step. Sam met her on the barn door, raising an eyebrow at her expression. "You find something?" "You're now not going to consider this," Sarah stated, protecting out her telephone. On the screen changed into a video of a Swiss bay stallion hovering over jumps with grace and precision. The name under the video: Examine, Star, Champion Jumper. Sam stared on the display, then at the horse within the stall. "That can't be him," he said, even though his voice lacked conviction. "It is," Sarah insisted. "Look at the markings, the form of his blaze. It's a fit, Sam. He's not just any horse. He's Star." Sam sank down on the nearest hay bale, weighing in on the significance of what she had simply stated. If this is the case, what inside the global turned into he doing in some godforsaken area half lifeless? Sarah's face hardened. Because Marcus Steele declared him useless. Probably to keep face after his injury. He deserted him, Sam. Left him to die. The call hit Sam like a punch to the gut. "Marcus Steele," he repeated, his jaw tightening. "I've heard that call earlier then. Big-time trainer, right? Always within the headlines." "Yeah," Sarah said grimly. "And then, due to him, possibly the quality horse I even have ever visible in all my years near being taken from me once and for all." Sam looks returned at Star, which observes them with these piercing, sensible eyes. Anger, but something else came over him. Willpower. Not now. Not if there's something this boy has going for him at all. Once again the barn fell silent, however it wasn't the heavy silence of grief that had hung there for years. This became the quiet of clear up, the sort that comes just before a hurricane. And Sam knew deep in his bones that the hurricane was coming. The quiet ordinary of Sam's farm became shattered whilst whispers started out to ripple via the small community. A rumor unfolded like wildfire. A mythical horse, thought to be gone, had been seen on Sam's land. Cars started pulling as much as the edges of the assets, their headlights reducing through the early morning fog. People leaned over fences, craning their necks for a glimpse of Star. Children pointed excitedly, and parents muttered to every other, debating if the rumor may want to probably be authentic. Sam emerged from the barn, pitchfork in hand, boots crunching on the gravel. He drew quick on the growing crowd, his brows knitting collectively. "What's all this?" he called out in a calm however company voice. A few murmured at him, phrases like miracle, hero, and that horse. Behind him, Star stood within the paddock, his morning coat. He circled his head a little, his dark eyes looking the scene with quiet curiosity. Sam sighed and leaned the pitchfork in opposition to the barn wall. He failed to want the eye, however it seemed inevitable now. By midday the small crowd had swelled, and the story was already traveling past the county. Marcus heard approximately its speedy. His popularity had taken a hit because the first whispers of Star's survival started out circulating. This turned into insupportable to him. He wished Star again, not for the affection of the animal however as an image to reclaim his tarnished name. That afternoon a graceful black automobile pulled into Sam's driveway. A man in a tailor-made healthy emerged from the auto, his shoes too brilliant for the gravel street. Sam stood there at the porch, his palms crossed over his chest. The guy got here ahead with an air of self-assurance. He prolonged a hand and Sam did now not take it. Mr. Mallister, I am Daniel Hayes representing Marcus Steele. We are right here to settle this as quickly as feasible. Mr. Steele is ready to pay you handsomely for returning his horse. Sam's face remained the equal. Star isn't his horse anymore. He threw him away, similar to he'd throw away a broken piece of system. Star deserves better. Hayes adjusted his tie, his well-mannered demeanor slipping just barely. Mr. Steele regrets what befell. He's prepared to make amends. I suppose you'll locate his provide extra than honest. He passed Sam an envelope. Sam opened it, scanning crisp criminal language and the range written in ambitious. It was a number of money more than he'd ever seen in his existence. Carefully folded the paper back and handed it over. Not fascinated, Sam stated, turning to move returned into the residence. Hayes progressed, his voice growing. This isn't just about you, Mr. Mallister. That horse belongs to Mr. Steele, legally. You're in no position to. You can see yourself off my belongings. Sam cut him off, his voice like metallic. Star stays right here. The anxiety drew the eye of the onlookers, who had lingered near the edges of the farm. Several friends approached, their curiosity quickly turning to anger as they caught the gist of the communication. They knew what Sam had executed for Star. They'd seen the hours he'd spent nursing the horse again to health, the care and determination he'd poured into the animal. You were given a few nerve coming right here, one man referred to as out. Others nodded, their voices joining in. The air buzzed with indignation. Hayes attempted to maintain his composure, however it changed into clean he become dropping manage of the scenario. He threw up his hands and stormed returned to the auto while someone pulled out a smartphone and started recording. Sarah, who were status off to the aspect, stuck the whole lot on video. By the time the sun set, the footage turned into already making its rounds online, observed with the aid of captions like, Marcus Steele tries to buy back abandoned horse, and money can't erase cruelty. The story reached Marcus via evening, and his reaction turned into instant. He known as in favors for media contacts, planting stories that painted Sam as a thief who had unlawfully taken possession of Star. Articles popped up, accusing Sam of exploiting the pony for fame and income. Marcus's maneuver labored as a minimum in part. While many humans supported Sam, others commenced to question his reasons. The equestrian global became a battleground of critiques. Star turned into not only a horse, he changed into an image, a flashpoint for debates approximately ethics and competitive sports. Sam became weary of the fight, however determined to protect Star. One night, as he worked on repairing a phase of the paddock fence, Sarah approached him with an idea. She leaned back in opposition to the publish of the fence, looking as Star grazed quietly below fading light. We want to change the trend, she stated. Let's take Star to the regional horse exhibition. Sam looked at her, frowning. He can't compete anymore, Sarah. You realize that? I'm now not saying he ought to compete. Just show him. Let people see the pony Marcus threw away. Let Star inform his personal story. Sam thought about it for a long moment,